economic impact, as Saima alluded to this fact also, the impact on business performance of workplace bullying. But there's an old adage that says that someone with a hammer in his hand looks at the entire world like a nail. So I think this cartoon also drives home that point. But before we jump to the main subject, I'd like to build some context for the presentation. Culture of any organization is the soul of its organization. Culture is made of values of an organization, the mindsets of people working in the organization, and most importantly, the behaviors of those individuals. Now, what ends up happening is that we tend to focus a lot more on behaviors because it is easier to make them tangible in terms of their objectives and performance. So where we sort of get a little fuzzy is on the values and mindsets, because values and mindsets drive attitudes, and attitudes are hard to measure. So what ends up happening is that we give a lot of lip service to values and mindsets, but we end up really measuring behaviors and incentivizing people on them. So I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Ali Abbas. Ali Abbas is a very successful executive. He holds an MBA from an Ivy League university. He has made EVP at the ripe age of 36. He is known to be a go-getter, very bright, ambitious, moves around in the social circle, rumored to be the next chief operating officer of a very well-known company. The bottom line is that Ali delivers when matters most. All of us know many bright, successful people like Ali, I'm sure. But there's another side to Ali's personality also. He tends to be an uncompromising perfectionist. At times he can be abusive and abrasive. It's really Ali's way or highway. There's no middle ground. And a lot of time he leaves people demoralized who work with him, and he just wants results at any cost. Does that ring a bell? Do we know Ali's in our lives? Have we come across people like him? Exactly. For people like Ali, the co-workers, colleagues, and people that are working with him are really means to his ends. Okay, so it's all about results. It's all about his own ambitions. So that leads us into what does a bully look like, or what does a bully act like. Typical behaviors are name-calling, insults, intimidation. Such people tend to be very controlling also. Some of them can be extreme levels of micromanagers. They tend to be workaholics sometimes, or they tend to make their people overwork. They leave a very demotivating impact on the people who work around them. And then they have this very deceptive ability of being passive-aggressive. So he's the type of person who can be very hard on you on a few things, and then at the end of the day would give you a hug and say, good job, and would leave you completely confused that where does he exactly come from? And that's exactly, so what ends up happening is that people say that, you know, Ali साहब जो हैं वो जुबान के ज़रा कड़वे हैं मगर दिल के बहुत अच्छे हैं. Typical comment that we hear all the time, but these people are essentially bullies. But it's very hard for nice people working around them to label them as such. So make no mistake. I'd like to introduce the concept of discretionary performance to you. We have a simple chart in front of us. There are two scales. The x-axis is time. The y-axis is performance. And you'll see that there's a red line on this curve, which is known as the have-to-do curve. So over time, people who are working under managers or who are working in organizations who fail to inspire them do just enough that you cannot fire them. Okay? So this is the have-to-do curve. You must do this in order to save your job or keep your job. The blue line is the discretionary performance. That's the privilege that only some managers have or some organizations have, but they have to earn it. So this gap between the two curves, a bully can never tap into that for people who are working for him. And that is the economic value that we miss out. So all of the time, when we think about somebody who is very abrasive in an organization, we are in this conundrum because we are saying, well, you know, he delivers results, he is ambitious and he's bright, but at the same time, sometimes he's very tough on people. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about results, and we tend to overlook, and we do some gentle counseling, and in some organizations, they put them through some coaching programs and things like that. What we are overlooking is that we are making a compromise in the long run. In the long run, people who are working under or with such a person become demotivating, they stop taking initiative, and they just zone out. So in the long run, the organization actually loses, does not win. We have some empirical evidence also for this, which I'll share with you later. But here are two easy tests to identify a bully in your organization. The first one is that they're very unpredictable when you interact with them. So you never know what you're in for. You know, he can be in a very gentle and congenial mood, or he can be simply blasting people around him. So it's very inconsistent in terms of their behavior. And then the second one is that a lot of them, not all of them, are masters of this philosophy which I call the kiss up and the kick down. They're almost like split personalities when they are around their bosses. But when they're around their peers and subordinates, it's a completely different personality. So they have mastered this art, which I call the kiss up and the kick down. I see some people shaking heads. I hope it is resonating with some of you. And with those who it isn't, I think they're the lucky ones. There was a study done by a university in Australia in which they said that if a worker who is earning $40,000 a year and has this conflict with the organization, primarily because of inhospitable environment of the organization, bullying at workplace, what does it end up costing the organization by combining everything? It's a fairly lengthy study, but I just wanted to share that number with you. Now, this person earns $40,000 a year, so roughly a little over $3,000 a month. So can we have any guesses in terms of what would it cost to the company? The cost of conflict? 10 times. Okay. 25 times? Okay. Yusuf, that's very well. I hope that it would not be that high, because otherwise a lot of companies would go bankrupt. The cost is about 6 times, so you were pretty close. Their number was $234,000 for the year. That's a phenomenal cost.